Welcome to Truest Blood, the official True Blood podcast.
I'm Kristin Bauer.
And I'm Deborah Ann Wool.
And you've been invited in.
I wanna do bad things with you. On Truest Blood.
Welcome back to Truest Blood, where we sink our fangs into the series bite by bite.
This week, we have the head of the Vampire Authority with us, Chris Meloni, who played Roman Zimojic for a very memorable arc.
I know. It was very exciting when he came on the show. I remember that.
I know, and it was exciting when he said he'd come on our podcast.
I know.
This guy is very busy.
Very, very busy guy. And one of the most fascinating people to talk to because he is just so different from the characters he portrays on screen.
He is.
He's a very artistic, sort of like fun, weird guy. I just had a blast talking with him.
I know, me too. I mean, the one thing that's similar to his characters is that he has quite a presence.
Yes, that is true. He popped up on our video conference and we were like, oh, Chris is here.
I know. I was like, wow, a man is in the house. I know. So I hope that comes across just through his voice. But first, let's have a quick bite.
Movie magic. FYI, CGI.
CGI stands for computer-generated imagery. And this is so interesting that you found this out, Deb. It was first adapted for use in flight simulators for training pilots. And the first film to use CGI in tandem with live-action film was 1958's Vertigo, that old Hitchcock movie, during the opening credits sequence, followed in the 60s and 70s by films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, and Star Wars. But today, you would be hard-pressed to find a film or a TV series that does not incorporate CGI in some context.
Now, we often talk up the practical effects on the show, and we make it no secret that they absolutely rock our world. But this season features some of the biggest non-practical effects in the entire series. So in Season 5 of True Blood, we have the first real CGI characters, and the Ifrit smoke monster is no small accomplishment. So I really want to dig in to what it takes to make a smoke monster from concept to final product.
First, artists create drawings of key events in chronological order. These are called storyboards. They're created to map out the shots in a visual format. Then the writers, directors, producers all discuss the specifics of the creature that they're creating. What does it want? How does the smoke move? What do we really want to see? Then the visual effects company creates a previs. It's a pre-visualization using simpler animation to give everyone a chance to see what the effect might look like and how it's going to fit into the show.
So then, in production, the previs is used as a template for what they need to actually capture on film. Then stand-ins, which might be a tennis ball on a stick or an actor in a green suit. We've all seen those pictures. They're there to help with tracking the monster's movements. Now, this presents a real challenge to the live actors in the scene. It takes tremendous imaginative ability to react realistically to something that either just isn't there or is in a completely incongruous form, like a traffic cone or something like that. And more importantly, I think on some level, more importantly, it takes a deep trust in the creators to give you the right direction so that your reaction will fit in with the final product that they're envisioning.
Scott Foley, Todd Lowe, and Carrie Preston all talk about this challenge. Everything from coordinating where to look, which is called your eye line, to timing with the monster's movements, to simply not cracking up when your monster co-star is a tennis ball on a stick wielded by a crew member wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt, leaping around like a crazed fisherman. I mean, sometimes the biggest challenge is not laughing.
So then, in post-production, the complex animation is completed. So they begin with creating a completely computer version of the scene tracking that shot. So software is then used to make a model of the creature. They add texture and shading, hair, if that's a part of it. Then the animator adds the acting or actual character effects, because again, this is a creature. Lastly, they add lighting to the scene so that it really fits in with the rest of the environment.
It's so incredible what goes into this. So the CGI then must be rendered, combining all these elements one frame at a time. One complex frame can take up to 4 hours to render. Now, keep in mind the typical frames per second of television is 24 to 30 frames per second. So 10 seconds of complex CGI footage could take up to 960 hours to render. Dudes and gals, that's 40 days. So luckily, on a show like True Blood, where they have the budget, they have many, many machines and people to have many scenes going, being prepared at the same time. Finally, the rendered footage is layered on top of the original footage from shooting during the compositing step, where more tweaks might be made.
And you have to go back and add it in at the beginning once again. So all of this is being done on a TV show's budget, a TV show's timeline, and it is a truly impressive feat.
Yes.
So we hope this really highlights the difference between CGI and the emerging AI technology that you may have heard a lot about. So CGI is still art with a heart. It's just human beings, artists, using computers as a tool versus AI, which replaces the artist wholesale. It is literally replacing the intelligence behind this art. So really, we want to jump in here and say, we just want to tip our hats to the visual effects team that made this happen. We can't mention everyone. There's a long list of incredible artists that worked on this, but to start with some of the people who did, many, many episodes, we have Sean Tompkins, Colin Feist, Barbara Jenikoff, John Massey, Dave Funston, again, so many more. You are all true artists, and we thank you for making the Ifrit a character we won't soon forget.
Yes. Thank you. We are beyond over the moon that the interview we have for you today is Christopher Meloni. And I want to tell you just a little bit about him, although I think it's probably unnecessary. He, of course, played the steamy, steely, 500-year-old head of the authority, Chancellor Roman. He went to college at the University of Colorado Boulder, where he took acting classes for electives, but then moved to New York to study acting with Sanford Meisner.
Yes, and then this, I love that you found this out, because I like hearing about actors who have to do other things, while they're getting work. But Meloni worked as a construction worker prior to getting his acting break in New York City, I imagine.
Chris has been in more projects than we could ever mention here. You all know him, but I'll call out just a few. NYPD Blue, Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and now Law and Order Organized Crime. He was also Chris Keller on Oz, and then executive produced and starred in a fabulous TV show called Happy. And let's not forget one of my all-time favorite movies, 12 Monkeys.
Also, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Wet Hot American Summer, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, Green Lantern, 42, Man of Steel. I mean, his resume's annoying. It's so long, it's annoying.
It's so long, it's annoying. Without further ado, take a listen to what Chris has to say about playing True Blood's Man of Steel.
Hello, Chris Meloni. Thank you so much for joining us.
Chris Meloni! Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking. Nice to hear you. See you.
Well, we're so curious because we've been, mining through season 5, which is, it's such an interesting setup with Roman. Maybe he's going to be the big bad, maybe he's not. It's just a great, interesting role. So we want to jump in. Our first question, because everyone has a bit of a story, is how did you get the part? How did you come on the show?
It was an offer, and it was Alan Ball, or the Alan Ball people, called my people. You know how that Hollywood speak goes.
Yes.
And for me, on the personal level, I knew True Blood, and I'd seen a couple episodes, and I was like, "Oh, it's pretty cool." That's it, pretty cool. But I also was sitting there going, because it was so popular,
Right.
like Rabbit.
Right.
I remember thinking, oh, this is the new Sopranos. This is Sopranos 2.0. This is the new thing that HBO has brought to America or the world, and it is just catching fever.
Right.
So I was really excited, but I had to educate myself. So my wife and I sat down. At the time, our children were young.
Yeah.
And we were like two junkies. And we would be like, starting from season 1, we're like, holy shit. Okay, we have responsibilities. Let's just leave it be. Let's take care of our responsibilities. And then we'd be like in different parts of the apartment or the house going, are you done with your responsibilities? Yes. And then we'd run and we'd go. Or it'd be late at night. It's like, after dinner, put the kids to bed, great. And it was like literally like we just, go. And run, and we just catch an episode. And my wife was the one who would have to get up at 7 a.m. the next day. But and so it's like, here it is midnight, and I'm sitting there going, one more, just one more. So that's it. We were like, full blown, and our code word then was, want some blood? Need some blood?
No way.
Yeah, let's grab some blood.
Marketing.
Okay.
You should have talked to marketing. That's amazing.
You need blood?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild. And this is back in the day of cliffhangers. So, True Blood was really trying to get you to just move into that next episode. Yeah.
It was, they're conjuring up of this whole world. I thought it was, it's just so cool, so ballsy, so outside of the box. It was just really a fascinating concept, and I thought obviously it was carried out really, really well.
So you got to watch 1 through 4, and then because you had so many big speeches. So did you come in on your first day with one of your speeches, your monologues?
It was day 1.
Because that's a lot.
Yeah. I think I did. What I remember about the monologues, which is funny, but also I'll say this, when I did get the role, when I finally said yes, signed on the dotted line, et cetera, I asked Alan, I said, well, so who is this guy? For you, you're bringing this to life. Who, or you're the one thinking this up. Who is this guy? I'll never guess. He goes, well, he's the president of the, Vampiric Council. And I think that's right. It's been so long.
Yeah,
and, so he's the head of the authority, right? I'm like, He goes, think of him as Obama. And I got to God bless Alan, but he threw me a curve. I was like, that's not working for me. It doesn't work. So, but I think just what he meant was, he's the president. Yeah. He's he's the head of state. But
right.
So the monologues, and God bless your writers. So they gave me.
Amen.
Yeah, they gave me the speech about the stake, from the Tree of Judas and blah, 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 blah. And it was really thin.
Yes.
It was a very,
okay.
They just touched on the concept, and I said, and so I went, so I talked to the writer, the guy who'd written it. I said, this needs more. This. It needs it. It requires it. I go, I'm not looking for it. I go, what you discovered or what you're bringing to the page needs to be expanded. You need to feel the weight of what this ritual is, what this represents, what the meaning, the deep historical meaning to these immortals. what this is about. And I thought, you know, I've never had a writer do this. I was in the middle of my thing and he went, I got it. I got it. I got it. And he just wanted me to be quiet. And I went,
same page. Yeah.
This dude really he's whatever it was. And so that to me is always a great working relationship, which is they know where I'm coming from. And God, you know, like, and lightning strikes, because it doesn't always happen where they're like, you know, because it's usually like, you know, because they're coming from a different place. But for whatever reason, this writer and he got it, and he was inspired by it.
Yeah.
And then what he wrote, and I went to him, I said, dude, this is inspired. This is,
It was.
you know, from, it was, yes, it was.
It was inspired. And I think there was another language part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Open with the speaking, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was really something. I mean, it was quite an introduction to the character.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so interesting that you had that confidence from the start. I mean, God, that's amazing, right? Deb and I.
Yeah, we talk about confidence
Deb and
on
I are
set,
not like
and,
that. Yeah, we need more of what you have, basically. But that's amazing that you did that, because you were
had a
correct.
hand in that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, well, I'll say this. It's a blessing and it's a disease. And it's a blessing because I do, you know, that's a thing that I have. I can see the I can see dialogue. I see scenes and I see the music of them. And I'm sitting there going, okay, this part on this bar is missing. It needs a little, you know,
Yeah.
basso profundo, or you know, whatever. This needs a little more pizzicato. This needs quiet. This needs a subtler. And, yeah, anyway, so and the curse of it is I truly can't help myself.
Yeah.
And all it is I'm speaking my truth.
Yeah.
And I'm very clear about that. It's not coming from a place of ego. That I'm just sorry, guys, but this is the truth as I see it, and I'm going to give a voice to it. Yeah. And I hope you pick it up. But anyway,
you want it to be good,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Well, there's something too. I'm so curious, and I'm so glad you bring up the Judas stake, you know, the stake, because there's this fascinating combination in Roman between politics, obviously, and religion, and this kind of fusing of the two. And he is part reverend, part politician, and there's this sense of sort of peace and calmness at the surface, but then absolute brutality bubbling underneath. So I'm so curious for you, as your first reading, what are your first thoughts on Roman? What sort of comes up for you that, you know, grabs your interest?
Well, you know, in retrospect, I saw it, I felt it at the time.
Yeah.
That, in fact, Alan Ball saying he's Obama actually helped quell and calm.
Yeah.
Because he's a very reasonable man, and he's a politician, and he's easy, and he knows when to use the stick, and he knows when to use the carrot, and flattery, or you know, all of these things. So he's a mover. Yeah. But what I really when he comes in from a game of golf, and they had me in the golf, I went, wow, this is such an acting challenge for me. And you know, I just went for it, and what I don't even know what that means or what I did, and I just remember going, this is such an interestingly peculiar position to place this guy. But I haven't seen it in a while, but you know, it's like, you know, I think it works because it's just so fucking kooky.
Yeah.
So kooky. So kooky.
It all worked. It was absolutely everything you just described is what we have been seeing on the screen, because Roman is so powerful, but he's not ever playing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, you feel the authenticity, the weight of it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm also curious for you, because, you know, previous to this, you'd been doing long run, hugely successful network procedural, to then come to serialized cable, which, you know, you probably have done before. But, you know, what is that transition like? You know, are there different things you're playing with?
Well, I'll give you that story. Yours was the first show that I did after 12 years.
Wow.
On SVU.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And I remember going, this is exactly what I want to do. It's where I want to be. I want to live in another world. I want to inhabit another person. But it was the world. I just wanted to be in another environment. And there was no other environment more 180 degrees than this fantastical, vampire soap opera.
Yeah.
And so I was so happy. I was so happy. And in fact, I think this is the truth. So I did SVU. I left whenever I left, 2013, let's call it. I can't remember. So 20 years, in the 20 years between 13 and now 2024, yours is the only time I've worked in LA.
No kidding.
Worked anywhere else
gosh.
except that
Only
was
time in Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the other weird thing about me going, God, I'm working in LA again. Okay, this will be great. It's like never happen again. You'll work everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so that was a big deal for me.
Wow, so different.
Yeah. And I remember that I think they angled it that way. I think they publicized it that way. You know, I felt weird about that, but
Sure.
Because I felt as though I was coming in like I'm the new guy on the block.
It didn't feel that way on set.
Good.
It definitely felt exciting that you were there and that you were this was a role that had been alluded to, this authority. Who was this? Why did the great revelation happen? As you watch the series, that's a big plot point that has sort of yet to have been elaborated on. To then to like finally put a face and a voice and a character to that was very exciting for all of us on the show.
Wow.
Yeah. Huge.
Huh. I'd forgotten that. That storyline.
We'd seen Nan Flanagan, so we had heard, we knew about the authority and all those things, but to really be like, this is the person who is responsible for the world of this show, it was really very, very cool.
Look, it was cool to be there. It was cool. I loved Alan. I loved all the actors. I loved the environment, both what we were playing in, but the behind the scenes, the everyday working environment.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember, the first time being on set with those two knuckleheads, always fucking around.
Which two? Which two?
Skarsgård.
Those two. The two knuckleheads.
Those two knuckleheads. Yeah.
The two. Yeah. No. That's yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was always fucking around with those guys. I always had these scenes with these guys.
Oh, those guys. Oh my God, they are always fucking around.
Because that vampire storyline was very isolated.
Right.
So it was like a little, college frat sorority thing going on in the
but those two knuckleheads are fun. Yeah. And I had been with those two knuckleheads for 4 years, and then all of a sudden you stole them, and I'm on the stage by myself in Fantasia crying about missing Eric. And so one day I came over thinking, maybe they miss me too, those knuckleheads. So I go over to your set because I want to see what the Authority set looks like, that amazing set. And I'm in there and I'm like, I walk in and you guys were just laughing and having a ball. And it was like, oh, hey, Kristin. And right back to each other. I'm like, they're not missing me. They're not missing Fantasia.
They were.
Yeah, I'll take that. Even if you're lying, I'll take it. I mean, that set was incredible. They really put effort and time into that.
The ceiling was, 30 feet high. I remember the first time I came on that set, we had like a safety meeting about not stepping in the water because presumably people had tripped and fallen in the pools. But there was a whole wire set up because you guys were flying through there at various points. And just an absolute play space in that. I'm sure you got sick of it after a certain point, but what an incredible set.
No.
Yeah. Never.
Again, I'm telling you, you do a thing for, for me, 12 years, and then you're able to just, as an actor, live in a different space. I mean, it's... But I'll tell you,
on every level.
When And I knew that they had actually told me, you know, Chris, you're not going to be around for long. So I took the gig knowing that.
Yeah, knowing it.
Yeah.
But I was having such a good time. Every time Alan would come down, I go, Alan, hear me out. I have an identical twin. And that's like, and I thought it was a really good idea. Yeah. But you know, they'd already broken the season, right? So they knew where they wanted to take it. But I'm like, I go, Alan, man, this is you're letting a missed opportunity go. You're letting an opportunity go by here, right? And he would, he was very polite, but for all intents and purposes, he was going, okay, that's great. Just memorize your lines, hit your marks, and let's just keep moving.
Well, let's talk about this death scene because it was epic. I mean, this is one of the bloody ones. Do you have any memory of the special effects, the prosthetics, what that moment was like, and also emotionally to sort of end?
Wait, my death?
Yeah.
Well, before I get to that, can I tell you the highlight of?
Of course.
I mean,
Of course.
Without question, my highlight. In fact, once we're done here, I'll send you a picture. A selfie that I took after my favorite scene.
Oh, please do.
It's when I got to stake the 9-year-old vampire.
Right.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh so hard. And I really was like, I don't know what that says about me, but it says a lot. I was laughing so hard the whole fucking time.
But that's True Blood, right? It's this weird mix.
Again, yeah. And talk
Just
about
remember,
the
I remember
opposite
holding
of
him
your
up.
former job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're safe.
I'm not
You're safe
on
now,
Law and Order
son.
right now.
Guess who's not safe? That 9-year-old who betrayed me.
No.
That's
wild.
And how they rigged it up. I was fascinated by that. And they had a bladder, blood bladder that oh my God, and it exploded. And
yeah, we really did stuff on that show.
yeah, you did. But, and I really meant that.
It wasn't CGI.
No.
Oh, boy. It was
it wasn't special effects. It was practical. So that blood that was flying. It was quite something on the day. And there was an excitement around it because no one wants to screw it up. And you know that they put time and effort into it. And it's a tough reset. So it's a pretty big day when we kill somebody.
It's a big deal. I mean, that's what people don't understand is that, and I don't know if you can use the picture in the podcast. I guess obviously
we'll promote it if you want to send it us. We'll put it out.
We'll post it
when it airs. Yeah,
I will because all the blood on my face. It happens in the moment with the prop guy, shooting me in the face with a blood splatter, right? And they go and they shoot it against a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And they go, is that enough? I'm like, nah, no way. No way. And they're like, okay. And they dial it up. Boom, more. I'm like, bro, come on. It looks like I have a hangnail. And so he's like, she shoots it. It's like, woo. And I go, there you go. Now we got a Jackson Pollock we can work with, right?
And now do a full page monologue. Go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And because, as soon as that hits you, you're like, call in makeup, call in wardrobe, reset the black. I mean, everything has to be reset. So anyway, people,
Yeah, you want to get that
You
right.
are on the one?
You don't want to screw it up.
The first take.
Yeah.
I think it was.
On that first take. Yeah, and it is funny how they will practice. That's interesting. They practice on a whiteboard. I remember one time when someone died in front of me and I had to be splattered, they practiced on my stand-in. So they were hitting, because they had to figure out how to not get my hair in my costume. So it was actually Nate, a dude stand-in, but they kept hitting this poor guy. I mean, we were all standing around. We were laughing so hard, including Nate. But this is the stuff around it. It is fun. When you're watching it, it's exciting and gross or gory or what have you. But also when you're doing it, it is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I found? Yes, it's fun. But I found that And you find this with shows where things are working well. There's a sense of respect and a sense of, honoring. You honor the words, you honor each other. That's why if you have a bad element, it kind of sticks out, and you're like, everyone is on board with the level at which we're being honored to play at, and then everybody's invested at a I wouldn't say same level, because like as I said, the boys fucking around, clowning around, right? But they were very committed, and
Very,
when I worked with them, it wasn't you didn't feel as though they were straying or anything. It's just that was their comfort place,
one
their
doesn't
way.
cancel out the other,
Yeah. So anyway, my death, when I was told, when Dennis O'Hare popped up, because I have been a huge fan of Dennis's. He actually did a starring role on SVU in whatever season, our 4th season or whatever. And he is one of the few actors that I had kind of stayed in contact with, and I don't know, I just felt a kindred spirit or something, or I admired him. I truly admired his acting prowess. So, when I heard it was, when I knew it was Dennis O'Hare who was going to do the deed, I'm like, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. If it has to happen, that's pretty great.
Yeah. Although I'm telling you, I was on my back and he had that stake up. I'm like, Alan, identical twin. I'm just,
Or great grandson, right? Like you could look the same as your,
Yes.
Yeah, come on. Oh, that's
So
wild.
anyway.
That's wild. I
We
mean,
do hear that from, I think, everybody, right? We've interviewed now.
Yeah.
Because the big bad always gets killed. And everyone says, oh, it was hard to leave that show.
Yeah.
And it was hard for us when it ended. It was a neat place.
So I didn't spend a lot of time in that authority space, but the little bit that I did, the main thing that I remember about that set and working in that set is that birds had gotten into the soundstage. So you'd be doing these very intense scenes where you or Dennis O'Hare would be giving these speeches about the future, and it was very intense, and you'd be covered in blood, and you'd hear tweet, tweet. It's like idyllic forest sounds coming from above. And I remember the number of times I like cracking up in the middle of these intense speeches because, you're going, we will take over the world. And just, again, like there was crickets too. I think you were talking about, Kristin. We had crickets on that sounndage.
Yeah,
so again,
I heard
the
stories,
sort of
but
reality. Yeah, the reality of having to shoot in these spaces with these huge emotional outpourings, and the reality of just kind of having to accept your surroundings.
You accept the circumstances.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Was your death scene, did that take a whole day to shoot? I was curious. How long did that take?
My death scene? Yeah, that was about a half-day affair.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I think it was a full day.
And was
but
it
the actual, right?
Yeah, the actual, yeah.
Was it your actual last day on set?
Yeah.
Or did you have other scenes to shoot after?
I think it was my it was my last. I think it was my last.
I know.
Yeah.
It's such a day, and it's so sad for all of us, too.
Yeah. Well, your face is on the wall. The other two deaths.
Yeah, your face is on the wall. Yeah, on the death wall. Yeah. But also then I got to see you. I got to meet you probably just at a couple table reads or something. But then, because we never got to work together. And then doing Comic-Con. And all the press is when I got to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a whole nother fun, interesting True Blood
Being part of the show and
experience.
doing press like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was
The
my first
Comic-Con.
time ever getting down to Comic-Con. I mean, I had no idea. And what an eye-opening,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know how late to the game I was, but I just remember going around going, oh, this is the new norm. Just like the first couple of years of Sundance.
Yeah.
You know, when it's finally caught on, you're like, oh, this is outside the system. This is the new norm.
Right.
You know, independent films.
Right.
Right.
And that's what Comic-Con was. It's like, this is your resource-rich environment from which you're going to cull material and ideas and characters. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that shifted for us over the years. I mean, I remember the first time we went to Comic-Con, you know, we were one of the only television shows or really film TV there. It was still sort of comic books and art and sci-fi and, you know, kind of that world.
Yeah.
It hadn't become an industry event yet. And so people are kind of like, oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe because there was a book and then literally within 2 to 3 years later, you're talking, I mean, I don't know if these are the right numbers, but you're talking like 50,000 people coming to Comic-Con to 250,000 people coming to Comic-Con. And all of the big shows, you know, and movies being there, all of the big stars and celebrities, it turned on a dime, and we sort of saw both sides of that. So by the time you were coming in season 5, I mean, you're talking the SUV ride to take us all from the hotel to the convention through the back route to come in where the garbage usually gets collected took 45 minutes, you know, to do a quarter mile
it's one
drive.
block. Yeah.
Right.
Very, very intense publicity going on at that point. But yeah, one thing I'd love to talk a little bit about with you is Roman's wardrobe, because it's one of the fanciest, one of the like most sophisticated and nicest look going on there. And yes, you had your golfing outing as well. So I'm curious, you know, we've spoken with Audrey and we love her work on the show and how much isn't. And again, like what was your input there? Did you just draw inspiration? How did that collaboration work?
Yeah, no, I did not have much to say about it, as I recall, but my feelings were that I felt like Roman, you know, when they put on that, had me in that suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, this dude is tight and he's put together, you know, with intention, you know, with everything that we're talking about. You know, he knows his position. He knows who he is. He knows, you know, what image he's trying to project. So, and I just thought they nailed it.
Yeah.
So I was always very happy to go on in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the visual of you in the suit with the energy that you bring, it is such a clear, without a word being spoken even sometimes, it's such a clear sort of representation, I guess, of what he represents. Yeah, it's a really staggering role, actually. It hits you quite hard.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm getting goosebumps, you know, just having memories going, oh, yeah, that was, you know, because I remember, you know, now I'm remembering the feelings of, you know, when I almost, you know, when I threatened to stake Eric, and I remember the feelings of getting to stake the 9-year-old. Oh my God, and it makes me laugh. Anyway, it still makes me laugh.
To me, right? Like the guy who has speeches about, you know, order over chaos and mercy over sadism. And like, this was your language. And yet you are also the person who staked a 9-year-old, you know, that had that brutality underneath. It's such, again, we just spoke with Angela Robinson, one of our writers, and we talked about contradiction in character and how important that is to give interest and nuance. And Roman is like a beautiful contradiction, I feel.
And I also I remember feeling, once I kind of got a lay of the land, which is, you know, Roman is an arc, right? Yeah. Roman is, you know, whatever it's a B, C, A, B, C, whatever, however they're going to write it down. But I remember because, you know, I watched the show and I wanted to be everywhere. You know, so we did, you know, we never interacted. I'm like, I want him to walk into that bar. I want him to, you know, but you can't because, and I understood it, you know, the mystery, the authority needs to resonate in the layer of the authority, you know. That's good. Now we cut to the president. And, you know, no one cares about the president going out and getting a beer at the
Well, I'm hearing, I mean, this is an HBO podcast, but I'm hearing a spinoff here. Is what I'm Roman's identical twin brother.
Let's spitball.
Let's do it. Come on, throw out some ideas.
Totally.
Yeah, a little True Blood spinoff.
Yeah. Well, you know, you guys, you call Alan Ball and, yeah.
We'll get that going. I
Get
like
him
it.
involved.
Now, Deborah is a super researcher, and I am the opposite of that. If there's a possible below zero researcher, where do you fall? Because you were, you know, talking about big religious concepts, and there was the Bible and, you know, the vampire Bible and Lilith. Where did you fall in that spectrum for as an actor?
As far as like researching religious texts,
like lore or background, like how you know your process of getting into that, is that something that you need to do, or like Kristin, many don't?
You know, it depends on the role. This was, you know, this one to me, because it was based on the fantastical to me.
Yeah,
that was the world I felt I was about to play in. I felt it could be anything. And so you know, research sometimes will bog me down, will anchor me as if I have to be right or correct. And as, you know, so it shackles me. But other times I'll do the research and it just, all of a sudden it'll just give, then you let it go, right? It's like your preparation, right? You do your prep and then you leave it at the door, right? You do your research and then you leave it be, and lo and behold, it'll just pop up in a scene. You go, oh my God, that's what this moment will mean to me. And, you know, it'll have a different resonance. No, I just, you know, the speeches, it was, I didn't think there was any research that would help things. What I thought was the musicality, as I said before, the musicality of it. And if like a beat was missing or something needed to be built up or taken away, you know, that, you know, what were the things that resonated, that was important to my character. What stance did he take? Upon which, what was the hill that he led from? And it's, as you said, that there was part religious, part traditional, part progressive. But you know, so he was, as you were saying, a little complicated, a little contradictory. But he was, you know. And so I didn't do much. It was the writers who, you know, had all of these elements that I was able to, you know, I don't know, make my own or have the choice to play with.
Oh, fantastic.
I have kind of a selfish question that's not True Blood. I don't know if I've ever done this, but Happy was such an interesting show, and you executive produced it, and it was also intense and
fantastical.
And fantastical. So do you feel like that came about wanting to be back in this kind of world and excited about continuing to explore?
That's really good, and I hope you liked it. And
I loved it.
I'll say this about that. So my feeling about True Blood was I couldn't have been happier. And I couldn't have been happier because I was just in a different world, and a world I'd never experienced as an actor.
Yeah.
And when I got Happy, it was the same feeling. It was the, this is a completely unknown world. So there was such a deep sense of freedom and a fuck it.
Yeah.
Just unshackle yourself. And it was so freeing. And, you know, the highest compliment I got paid, I was told this by 4 different people, all really good friends. And these are all dudes who know me, don't give a shit about what I do, don't watch. They're like, you know, I'm just one of their guys.
Right.
They called me up and they said, dude, I've never seen you have so much fun.
Oh.
And I went, my job now is done. Yeah. I'd never had more fun in my life. Yeah. Because it was freedom. It was complete freedom and anarchy. You know, so like Roman and True Blood, there were rules and regulations to that fantasy and that freedom. Right. In Happy, there were far less.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Huh.
Yeah.
It's an incredible performance, incredible show.
Thanks. I loved it. I loved doing it. Yeah. I've been very blessed, though. I've had a lot of love affairs in my career.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you have been blessed. You know, your IMDb is ridiculous.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Is it?
Same.
Is it good?
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Good.
It's nuts.
I have to look at it. No, so I can agree.
Yes, it's your resume.
Oh my God.
This is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. No one should have worked this much on this many interesting things. It's not right.
And yet, every project I finish, it's like, I'll never work again. I'll never work again.
The thing,
oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's so interesting that you think that too. Oh, God, it's ingrained in us.
I will never work. You know, and I think it is the residual PTSD of making this insanely stupid, irresponsible leap into the creative unknown, thinking that you can be an actor.
Yep.
Who do you think you are?
You are, yeah.
Shut up.
Are you? Yes.
Get off.
Right.
Get off my shoulder.
Yeah. Speaking of ridiculous, it is a very ridiculous idea.
It is. It is.
The only thing more ridiculous is thinking you can be a rock and roll star or a musical.
Yes.
You know,
You're right.
And
You're
I
right.
say this.
Yeah.
I say this in the same breath.
Yeah.
God bless us all.
Yeah.
And keep being crazy and keep being out of your fucking mind.
Yes. What would the world be without all of these creative endeavors? Books, music, performances of all kinds. I mean, it would be very gray.
But it's the first step. What would the world be without that first step? Without that, how dare I? Exactly.
Yeah.
You dare
to have the audacity.
How dare I?
Yeah, the audacity. Exactly.
Well, Kristin, you want to bring us home here?
Okay. So, Chris, we ask everybody, when you think of your experience on True Blood, I feel like we should have some sort of game show music. What are 3 words that come to mind?
My True Blood experience.
Yep.
Liberating.
That's a good one.
Off kilter. It was. I felt like this the whole time, and I think it was the acclimating to the world, and maybe dredging up a new character because for the most part I'd played Elliot Stabler for 12 years. I'd had gigs sometimes in the off season, but so it was off kilter. I felt solidly off kilter,
right?
But it was liberating, off kilter, and I think I'll say beautiful, and I say beautiful because of the other things that I alighted to, I touched on, which was you see in front of you all these notes, but everything has to come together to give life to the notes, to the piece. And it's what I said. So the environment was right. The head of state, Alan Ball, was right. His writers, there seemed to be a cohesion that I experienced. There did not seem to be, ego and tension, and that I could. The actors, I felt, were collegial and of one. Yeah. One unit, one piece. So, basically what I'm saying is you step into something where everyone is listening to the conductor, but playing their instruments the way they want to, with, very, little intrusion, maybe a little, help here and there. But so that's what it was, right? There's a beauty to be in this creative space where, we all have the same music, but we're going to play it our way. Yeah. And then this is what you get. Makes sense?
Chris, I mean, the notes, the melody that you brought, even for, a shorter run on the show, it elevated everything for that season, and just can't thank you enough for coming to talk to us about it.
2 words for you.
Yeah, that brings...
2 words. Identical twin.
We'll push it up the ladder.
Get back to me. Call me.
Yep.
All right, guys.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. This is so wonderful. This was a really interesting one, I think, because neither of us worked with Chris very much. So this was, in some ways, our first real glimpse into the man behind Roman, And I think there is, immediately after watching his work and now meeting him, there is a chaotic energy underneath Chris that just serves everything he does, I think, especially when he's cast against that a little bit, in which I think he was with Roman. He's a fascinating person to talk to.
I know. I was thinking at one point in the interview, I heard myself say, there's a lot of sexy alpha men on the show. Right? That's a dude. That's a man. Right? I was having thoughts like that. I was having female thoughts. I was okay. I was having female thoughts. I was like, Chris, you got to focus. You got to focus. Because I did not work with him. I'm not used to, the other dudes, the other alpha dudes I'm used to. Yeah, I know. And his voice and his presence. And he's so generous.
Very generous, very eloquent.
Fun.
But not in a way that's pretentious or puts you off. It's just really, specific. And I feel very honored that he took this time to talk with us about this, and I think it speaks to how much the show must have meant to him, as he shared, because it was only 5 episodes, really, something like that. And to come on a podcast and talk about that, must have meant something to him.
I know. Isn't that amazing? His resume is so long. I scrolled forever and finally just stopped, doing my research for this. And he said he'd come on our podcast.
What a nice guy.
I know. We're lucky. That was a wonderful conversation.
Next week on Truest Blood, Lucy Griffiths joins us, and we cannot overstate how much we love this lady. She's talented, she's thoughtful, and so kind.
Yeah, so be sure to listen as she shares her experience playing Nora Gainsborough, working with Alexander Skarsgård, and how she almost didn't audition.
Right.
It was such a treat talking to her. I couldn't believe her story.
It's going to be great. So thanks for listening, Trubies. Subscribe and follow wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we'll see you next week.
Y'all come back now. Yeah.
Truest Blood is produced by Safe Haven for HBO. Executive producers are Janina Gavankar, Kristen Bauer, and Deborah Ann Wool. Our producer is Gabrielle Gallan, and our audio producer is Christopher Wool. Our theme song was recorded just for this podcast by Jace Everett. Additional music was composed by Timo Chen. And remember, you can watch all of the original episodes of True Blood on Max.